All right. Good evening, everybody. Happy Pride. First of all, I want to extend tremendous thanks to Simona and the rest of the Ljubljana Pride team for inviting us here to share this film with you. And this is a work of passion, something that I never believed I would ever make. And it just means a lot to me every time I screen it and I share it. So it's very personal. So let me tell you a little bit about how that happened, because it's kind of cool. And it's kind of cool in the context of activism, because I never expected to be an activist. I really didn't. I transitioned back in 2011, I think it was. And all I wanted to do was blend in. Yeah. Yeah, you can kind of guess that didn't work out so well. And so then a good friend of mine and a business coach said, you know what, you need to stand up and you need to be out there. And so I did. So I took to the stage. I actually shared my story, and you can Google me and find that on YouTube. That's a whole different story. But I became an advocate, and really what I did was I was sharing my story for the benefit of other trans people back in Canada. So this was back in Canada. And I was happily going along. I had a photography business. I was doing video production for small businesses, that kind of thing. And everything was great. And then in June of 2014, a good friend of mine actually called me up and she said, I've got a referral, an opportunity for new business. Yes, we all love that. Anybody self-employed here? Anybody? Yeah, you know what a referral's, yeah. So a vodka company, no less, close to where I was living and working. They need a video. Well, weeks went past as we exchanged voicemails and a couple of emails, and nothing really happened. And then finally, we got together. And we got together in a coffee pub in Burlington, Ontario, in Canada. And we started our discussion at about 7:30 in the evening. And the coffee pub kicked us out at 11:30 because they wanted to close. So we walked across the parking lot into a bar. And we sat down in the lounge of the bar and we carried on our conversation. They kicked us out at 2:30 because they wanted to close. We carried on the conversation in the parking lot as the police cruised by, thinking, what else is going on here, right? That discussion was an introduction to me of the issues going on with the LGBT community in Ukraine. And these two people who you're going to meet in the film sponsored 4 activists from Kiev, and Olena Semenova, who's with me tonight, is one of those, and you're going to see more of her in the film too. They sponsored these 4 activists to come to the World Pride Human Rights Conference in Toronto in 2014. This was a big event for Toronto. It was utterly huge. And they were committed to giving Ukraine a presence at the Human Rights Conference. And what they wanted was very simple. They just wanted me to video the visit. We didn't know what we were going to do with it. We just knew that we needed to record the visit. And by the way, they had no money for this because they'd spent it all on airfares and hotels and things to get the activists across. But having heard the story, which is told in the film, you'll realize why I did it. Why I became so engaged, why I cleared my calendar for the entire week, why I packed all of my studio gear into my truck, drove it down to Toronto, and set up home downtown. I was living about an hour and a half away at the time. And I followed them for the entire week. By the end of the week, we had realized that this needed to be a film much bigger than just to document a visit. The struggle for LGBT rights in Ukraine has been going on for 20-odd years. And in 2012, they had their first attempt at a pride march in Kyiv. And it wasn't successful. And I'm not giving the plot away, but you're going to see more of that too. The important thing is the concept of ripples and how just a little action can make a huge difference. So here's what happened. One of our good friends was beaten at that march attempt. That was publicized on the web. Elton John, a month later, was having a concert in the middle of Ukraine, and he stopped this concert halfway through and said beating of gays is just not acceptable, and Ukraine is better than this. One of the two vodka company owners, who happened to be Ukrainian Canadian, was at that concert. And she said, what on earth is going on? She just had no clue what was going on, but was touched and moved by what was said. So she Googled what was going on and what was happening, and that just created the catalyst for what transpired in terms of bringing Kiev Pride to Toronto, to experience Toronto Pride. And so in the context of the East-West divide, I present to you with this film the juxtaposition between the celebration that is now Toronto Pride and the continued struggle for human rights, which is the context for Kiev Pride and indeed for ourselves here in Slovenia too, right? To a certain degree. I did not expect to become a documentary filmmaker. It wasn't something I said I was born to do. It wasn't something that I aspired to do. Just by chance, I got involved with this, and it changed my life completely. And I hope through this film and through others that I'm making, and I'll give a quick plug here, and I hope you don't mind, but we've also shot a film about transgender life here in Slovenia, which premieres later in the month. I wasn't able to get it finished in time for Ljubljana Pride. Just one little thing, one flutter of a butterfly wing somewhere in the world will start a chain of events that can impact and make huge change. So I applaud to you to think about that. Every little thing you do has an impact. It has a knock-on effect. And the kind of work we do as activists, and I'm assuming that most of us are activists in the room here tonight, in some context or another, every little thing we do, we might think it's insignificant. We might think that it's not enough. But it is, because it will have an impact. It'll have a knock-on effect, and it will make a difference. I hope you enjoy the film. And right afterwards, we're going to have a discussion and bring you up to date, because this brings us as far as 2014, and the story goes on. And we're going to hear from Olena later on to give us an update of what's happened in 15 and 16. So with that, I would say roll VT.